Hi there folks, Sam here. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different and dive into a RPG I haven't played. So you may have seen that the Discworld RPG from Modiphius is currently in Kickstarter. If not, I'll leave a link down below. And I've had a quick look through this before. I'm going to have another more in-depth look with you guys just now. But I want to talk about Discworld in general, why I love Terry Pratchett, and also a little bit of this idea I'm kind of developing recently where I'm wondering, why do we play RPGs? What kind of stories do we want to tell with them? I'm someone who plays a lot of, sort of D&D or Draw Steel, and I've read my heroic fantasy books and movies and things. But that's not what this RPG is about. That's not the kind of stories this one tells. And I'm interested about having a further look into it and seeing what it's about. So, if you bear with me here. So, like I said before, it's from the crowd over at Modiphius. And I'll always take a look at the design team. Not that I know many names, but the ones I do, I'm like, that's cool. They're in this. And let's see. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Discworld is a disc floating through space on the back of 4 elephants, which are standing upon the back of the great turtle Achun. This is a tortoise, but definitely a turtle. In a distant and second-hand set of dimensions, in an astral plane that was never meant to fly, the curling star mists waver apart. See, the great Achun, the turtle comes, swimming slowly through the interstellar gulf, hydrogen frost on his ponderous limbs, his huge and ancient shell pocked with meteor craters. Through sea-sized eyes that are crusted with rheum and asteroid dust, he stares fixedly at the destination. In a brain bigger than a city, with geological slowness, he thinks only of the weight. Most of the weight is of course accounted for by Barilla, Tabul, Great Tufon and Jerikeen, the 4 great elephants upon whose broad and star-tanned shoulders the disk of the world rests, guarded by the long waterfall at its vast circumference and domed by the baby blue vault of heaven. The Colour of Magic, which is the first Discworld book I believe, but it was, purely from my personal perspective and experience, kind of like the rocky start. I have read it. It was a decent enough book. If I'd read that one first, I'm not sure I would have leapt into the Discworld. Which I remember as a kid reading The Wee Free Men, which is one of the Tiffany Aching series about basically a series of like 6-inch tall Scotsmen with blue skin who run around screaming their own names, the Knack McFeagle. But when I really remember getting into Pratchett was Thud. Someone bought me, I think, for Christmas. And I'd read it, but back of it, looked at it a little bit, and kind of maybe started it, and it was a bit dense at the start. And then at another later time, I picked it up, and then just got sucked right in, and that was me. It covers it's part of the Watch storyline, which is my personal favourite. And basically, if you've never read a Discworld book, it is fantasy, but it's very, very strongly comedy. And a bit of social commentary, and all that kind of works together to tell really fun stories. And there's all, I don't know if this isn't true for all of them, but there's definitely with the Watch, and I would say a bit with the Witches, a certain amount of like uncovering the mystery, which I quite like. So let's see. So Discworld is a setting where the gods play games with the lives of men on a board which is at one and the same time a simple playing area and the whole world. So, Adventures in Ankh-Morpork allows you to play games with lives of humans, dwarves, trolls, gargoyles, Igors, zombies, and a whole plethora of other weird and wonderful creatures that call the disc home. So I think the basic gist is you can play anything you want, because it's not a game with classes or ancestries. It's a game about characters. So you can be anyone. You want to be the local dog, well, it would help if you talk, but again, that's also a character. Whose name is escaping me at the moment. Gaspode? I want to say the dog's called Gaspode. I shall have to check. But yeah, so you can play pretty much anyone in this game. And the setting for it, rather than the whole disc, which I think you probably could expand out, is Ankh-Morpork, which is the sort of greatest and worst city in the whole disc. So you get a bit of background information on why and what Ankh-Morpork is, and then it talks about what is important in many games, but incredibly important, I would say, in a Discworld game. So the tone of the books is very specific. So let's dive into this bit. So our aim of this game is to bring that core, indefinable Discworldiness to your tabletop. The focus here isn't on delving into dungeons or fighting dragons. And two little asterisks there is another classic from Pratchett books, which means there's a little addendum at the bottom. Swamp dragons are rather too small to offer much of a fight. For a start, combine this with their inclination to explode if startled, and you've got a recipe for some very disappointed, slightly singed adventurers milling around sheepishly picking bits of dragon out of their hair. So normally you'd be moving 30 feet and dealing 12 damage to a monster. So you're not running around, you're not tracking rations, you're not tracking torches, you're not tracking HP, you're not tracking footsteps. There's no combat rules. Violence can be part of the story, but it's a slightly more zoomed out, less tactical experience. It's more of a narrative one. So you get traits, so you don't have stats per se, you just have traits on your character sheet. And I think the central mechanic is narrativium, so the story basically. And the DM has a dice, a D8, for Discworld reasons. I'm not gonna, if I dive into every little reference and Easter egg, I'll be here forever. But the idea is the director's always rolling this D8. That's their control of the story, and depending on what you're trying to do and how hard it is, you might be rolling a D4, a D6, a D10, or a D12. And there's no modifiers. You just roll that dice, and whoever gets higher has control of the narrative. A bit like, I mean, loads of games, but if you've ever played 10 Candles, that's pretty much just about who seizes control of the narrative and describes the next scene. So safety tools are always important. What is a role-playing game? Hey, we all know what that is by now, I think. If you don't, by all means read this section. There's lots of really fun art in here, which I'm certain is by artists who've done stuff for the Discworld series already. Here's Death. Just what I'm thinking about, one of the things I was going to mention was how I got this. So I believe I signed up to a newsletter a while back, and when just before the Kickstarter went live, they sent out the Quickstart PDF. So that's why I have this. I think that should be readily available for anyone if you want to check it out on the Kickstarter. But here you go. So the system is built on two premises. The disc has a story it wants to tell, and left alone it will spin on much as it has always done. So to me that's true of any RPG I'm running. The world has a story. That story is going to unfold. The game is about what you guys do about it, and the story changes in reaction to what you guys do. So yeah, point two, the players want to change the story to one more to their liking. So again, that's narrativium concept. So pen and paper imagination, classic RPG stuff. I think that's Leonard of Quirm, the Da Vinci analogue. Puns, endlessly important to get that tone right. You do need friends and time. Oh, I mean, look at that art. That's when I keep getting all the ads. That's just so Discworld, so awesome. There's Death of Rats there. That's an imp. And of course, the librarian, who is a orangutan. He's most certainly not the M word. And you definitely shouldn't say that word around him either. Yeah, so this has not got all the rules, just a quick start guide. So each part of the game is broken down into a scene, just like the Discworld novels. So again, I think that's the similarness from other games. You're not focused on the nitty gritty, walking along the street. How do we get from A to B? It's you focus in on where the activity is, where the drama happens, basically. To make a test, you declare what you want to do. You justify it using your trait. So what does that mean? The player who declared the action decides which trait on their character sheet they're using to justify the action. It's encouraged to twist the meanings of your traits and use them in absolutely ridiculous ways to justify actions they have no business justifying. Yeah, that's if players don't do that anyway. So the GM determines difficulty by picking one of those dice I talked about earlier, and then there's option for help after the DM rolls or the GM rolls their dice. Then you resolve. And then it says the GM narrates the outcome, but So it's not so much, maybe I was wrong earlier talking about the 10 candles thing. It sounds like the GM still narrates the outcome, the player just gets what they want. So I guess that's how they're changing the story. There you go. Cohen the Barbarian. Group tests, again, some of the other games. This one I love. It's again a reference to the books. 1,000,000 to 1 chance. Sometimes your players will surprise the GM with absolutely absurd, ridiculous, or genius plans that are so outlandishly unlikely that they make you stop and go, it's a 1,000,000 to 1 chance, but it just might work. In these situations, you can say that the GM can roll that PCs automatically succeed. An attempt to force a 1,000,000 to 1 chance is doomed to failure. That's something that the characters in one of the books realise, is that, wait, we've actually got a lot going for us here. That means it's only like 1,000 to 1. 1,000 to 1 chances never happen, but 1,000,000 to 1 chance. So then start trying to stand on one leg and stand on top of a bucket to try and shoot their arrow that has to hit the dragon. So another concept is everything on your sheet is a trait. So as you get consequences and all these things, so number 7, brief character description. All of them are traits. Absolutely everything is a trait. You can relate anything here. So you could say, oh, I should get let into this building because I'm a member of the watch. Equally say, I know what time it is because I'm always watching the time. I would accept that as a Discworld GM. There's just, whatever you can do around. A winning smelling chisel features could be charismatic because it's literally true. Look at that grin. And similarly, we're not tracking gear. We're just, you've got the kind of anything you would expect to have, you have. Now luck, I don't know how luck works. So luck is a measure of your character's favour with the lady. Let's look at the little addendum. The lady is one of the gods of the disc, one of those feuding, grumbling and all-too-human entities who live on done manifesting, playing games with lives and dice, and sometimes snacks. Do you ever see a word and you've seen it 1,000,000 times and it sounds a certain way in your head and then you've never actually said it out loud? That was one of those. So you can spend your luck in 2 ways. Firstly, to decrease the severity of a consequence, and secondly, to help another player with a test. Both of these cost 1 luck, and only 1 luck can be spent per test. It's up to players whether they wish to take the safe option and tone down the consequences, or risk another roll and try and gain success. To begin luck, you'll have to do things that pique Lily's interest. Excellent, unusual, or downright weird roleplay ideas, and the use of traits can all earn you back a point of luck at the GM's discretion. So I think this ties back into get help. I think get help makes it harder or something. Let's see. Yeah, so if you still fail after get help, the consequences get 1 degree worse. So luck could be very useful. Okay, so consequences. So this is what happens when you roll bad. And you can die. It would not be a Discworld game if death couldn't pop up and speak in bold. Or all caps, I guess, rather bold. Okay, so you can have inconsequential consequences, minor consequences, major consequences, or exceptional consequences. Which are all pretty much what you'd expect. Wanted by the Thieves Guild is definitely a major consequence. Okay, an example of play. I'm not going to go into this too much. I'll linger over it on the screen, but it's basically an example of what we've just been talking about. Illyria wants to wrangle a dragon. Sorry, Rennie wants to wrangle a dragon. Illyria's like, cool, how are you going to justify that? Well, I'm going to do it with this. A bit like a skill in a D&D or whatever. Good old watch. I mean, just look at that. That is a dragon. Like, awesome. And that's it. That's the whole Quickstart guide, and then you're straight into the adventure. Now, the adventure is a part I've not really looked at, so I'm going to skim through. So it's just locations, it looks like. A finale I won't spoil. And you've got a chase. So each scene has particular suggested consequences, which I really like. And there's another adventure. More awesome art. Like, this is part of the social commentary part of it. Undead, yes. Unperson, no. So loads of adventures and stuff in here. Just looking to see if there's anything particularly different at the end, other than more cool art. Pre-generated characters, okay. So what have we got? We've got a detective. Oh, I've got art as well. Let's zoom out a little bit for this part. So, Detective Bartholomew Hamron. So you just remember the Watch, the zombie who lived and died in these streets. Is Nisha's loose siege catapult? The law is more of a guideline, really. Core, better happen to me than you. Quirks, remember the good, bad old days. Always hits what you should be aiming at. So that's pretty cool. So it's not like character creation guide in this, but it's more about how these all work, and then you'll get a character creation guide in the complete game, I would assume. Nice. So this is just a fun character straight off the bat. Who else we got? More Watch members. I suppose a lot of these stories go with the Watch. So this person is very clearly an Igor. They're all stitched back together. An Igorina, apologies. Go back to Constable Cliff. We'll get Constable Surly Underhand. I need to finish this video and go read a Pratchett book. Constable Misbegotten Ampersands. That is... A watch officer is not adorable, but if there was an adorable watch officer, it would be this one. And a nice wee handy reference sheet at the back. So this looks really cool. I am still going back and forth on backing it. My thinking references at the start talk about why we play RPGs. I like to think about, well, everyone does. You're spending your money on a game. You want to know you're going to play it. So most RPGs I've played. I mean, 5e being the exception. You get a couple of games out of it, and that's it. Like, I played... The first RPG I ever bought was the Dresden Files in the Fate system. And we played... I played the whole campaign, as I'm wont to do. And we played maybe 3 or 4 sessions, if that. And then that was it. There was never really a big urge to go back. A couple of friends, including folks at DSM, are interested in the system, or more interested in the setting, and trying to go back to that. D&D we played boatloads of, same with Draw Steel, but I have Phoenix Dawn Command. We've played that 3 times. I got to play once, I ran once, and then I ran a version of it as a superhero game. Star Wars Fantasy Flight we played once, made a bunch of characters once. So if I'm going to buy an RPG, I really want to know I'm going to get some mileage out of it. So I really appreciate a quick start guide like this, where I can say to some friends, hey, I want to run this without any major investment on my part. The adventure's right here, the rules are here, I can explain as we go along. So I'm actually going to give this a go, and I'd recommend you guys do the same. But more broadly, what kind of stories do we want to tell with RPGs? And this one, I'd be inclined to look back to the books and go, what do they do? Again, comedy, fantasy, and social commentary. I like to tackle something, not necessarily something that's of our time, because my friends are quite, what would we say? Are we woke? We'll say we're woke, fine. I'm not worried about tackling something that's like the world at large is struggling with or grappling with at the moment. But I would be interested in telling a story that maybe me and my friends are. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but something we maybe overlook, or a society we're not familiar with, and just do a comedy game set in there where you're exploring these ideas and these people who you maybe don't interact with. I think it's really fun. Although as a director, running something you don't know anything about would be, or telling a story you don't know anything about would be difficult. They do say write what you know. But yeah, so I've got a couple of RPGs I picked up this week. I'm going to look into those, but I'm going to keep asking myself this question, like, why would people want to play it? What kind of stories we're going to tell with it? Why are we playing it? And I think for this, I actually think it would be a hard sell for most of my friend group. So David, fellow DSM contributor, I know that he's a massive fan of Discworld, so that would be an easy sell. But for everyone else, their experience of Pratchett's probably limited to like the Discworld board game that I've got, or the odd movie on TV. And for some of them who've tried to read Pratchett books and just bounced off it, I think it'd be a really hard sell. So I'm going to go away, come up with a pitch, and maybe try and do something. But if this interests you, you can check out this quick start guide. I will confirm and put it in the comments if I can find where to get it. I'm assuming it'll be on the Kickstarter page, and I'll put the Kickstarter link down there as well. Have a look. If you fancy the game, back it. But I'd also love to know in the comments why you play RPGs. If you want to in a sort of broad sense, but why you play specific RPGs. Why would you play this RPG? I think it'd be cool to know. But cheers, folks. Catch you soon.